Salute, salute, salute. Welcome, 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 everybody, to PR 61 Minute Podcast. I am your host. Man, please respect the host. Please respect the host. Well, today is definitely a follow-up from Rest in Peace, Makia Bryant. It's a follow-up on allegedly for entertainment purposes only. So basically, what it's looking like, my opinion, what it looks like from a bird's eye view, that there's a lot of things that don't really make sense in this situation, where we don't know if this young lady was fighting for her life, if this young lady was actually fending off sex traffickers, because these things have to be applied whenever we look at a young child of that age or younger. For her to get to the stage where she has to feel that she has to stab somebody, it gets to a point of desperation for you to stab somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because even when you're at that age, man, people take L's. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of growing up. But for you to take a knife and try to stab somebody, that tells me that you've been pushed to a limit that you don't want to be in. So when you're pushed to limits, you tend to do things that you normally wouldn't do, and it takes guts to actually stab somebody. It doesn't take much to shoot somebody, but to stab somebody, it takes a different mentality. So what I wonder is, where was this young lady mentality? Who were these people around her? Because I don't really believe a lot of what people say as far as that was her dad. Like, how do we know this? What I do know, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, that the mother spoke about the incident. The mother, I believe her name is Paula Bryant. She works in the hospital. She spoke about the incident, and I get weird vibes from this matter, man, because we are a people that we go of emotions, and sometimes we have to set the emotions aside, because you could be wrong easily if you go just off emotions and not of facts, and not of what you actually basically see. Now, what I saw in this video was a young lady that reached a level of desperation that she felt that she needed a need to actually inflict deadly wounds on somebody, which I'm totally against. But if you're being pushed, if you are in an atmosphere that you've been basically damn near a sex trafficking slave or something, we have to understand that the foster care system in this country is a gateway to sex trafficking. Over 100,000 children a year, and this is since 2013, I believe. 100,000 children a year end up being sex trafficked from a broken system that is highly neglected. Now, when I heard that the young lady was in a foster care home, and I heard her father was there and her stepfather was there, and it didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. And the fact that the officer, now I looked at the video again just to make a correction from my last video. I saw that she came tussling down the parking, like wherever the cars were parked, coming down with another girl, and the other girl fell down, and she spinned around and tried to go for the girl with the pink, right? What I don't understand is how the officer was able to shoot her in her chest when she had her back towards him. That's something that I'm looking at and I'm questioning, because that can't be real. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if she would have got shot on her side, on her back, then it would have been more believable, because from a view from the camera of the officer, she has a back turn, ready to swing the knife at this young lady. Now, what's funny is the only person that could have shot this young lady in her chest would have been the gentleman that was sitting in the car that the girl with the pink dress was leaning against, right? But that's neither here or there, right? Because I don't want to go off. I want to break this down accordingly. At the same time, I don't know if I might be mistaken, but on April 20th, when this happened, on the 22nd, approximately 2 weeks before that happened, or a week before that happened, on the 16th of April, the Ohio, different departments of law enforcement in Ohio got together and made one of the most brilliant in human sex trafficking sting operations that it started, I believe, if I read correctly, from the 14 and the 15. So they gather intel on what was the networks. Now, from my understanding is Ohio has a pretty big highway infrastructure that it helps these sex traffickers take children, over 1,300 a year, from the border from Ohio all the way to Canada, which is, I never knew that would have been a route to do sex trafficking. I mean, Canada, you always would think, Mexico and other places like the Virgin Islands and stuff like that. So this is something that's happening. What something that's being neglected is the fact that how easily it happens in foster care homes. You know what I mean? When a lot of the 16% of a lot of the cases usually stem from, foster care. And there's not a lot of data, and there's not a lot of funding that goes behind foster care, like it is with gang intervention. So there's a lot of misrepresentation, and there's a lot of things that I don't get, how organizations like Black Lives Matter and will say, they phrases as far as Black Lives Matter, and neglect children that have no voice, and unfortunately could be allegedly like this situation, what I think my personal opinion would make it looks like to me, because just of the simple fact that this young lady was around a certain age group of 20-year-olds, right? And she being 15, that's a huge gap. And I understand how older kids may manipulate younger kids to doing things that they don't want to do. And I'm putting in my mind, like, this is not just like, but think about what Cindy Brown went through before everything that happened. How did she ended up in this situation? Was she homeless? Was she in a foster care home? We got to start really putting this together, because we may see another Ma'Khia Bryant, and we keep blaming these kids for their action, but not blaming the environment that's creating these reactions out of these kids. So we got to start focusing on, how did this happen? Okay, she came from a foster home. We already know from Jump Street that the foster care home system really, really is bad. The infrastructure in this country, as far as that is really bad. Like I said, it is a gateway to these sex traffickers. There's a gateway for these pedophiles, because there's not a lot of funding. There's not a lot that goes behind it. There are some organizations that are doing the work, but it needs to be a lot more, because the numbers just show us that we need to do more for these kids. They have no voice. I mean, Kia Brown, unfortunately, like I said, allegedly may have been in this situation, walking in the same path that someone as Cynthia Brown, that everybody thought that Cynthia Brown was guilty. And we definitely have to learn from this situation moving forward. We definitely have to pay more attention on these foster care homes, these group homes, and what's going on in there, because you're not creating productive citizens if they're being, how can I say this, sex trafficked or molested or anything like that. What it is you're creating more of a monster, because, like they say, hurt people hurt people. You know what I'm saying? So we need to start breaking it down, because what it looks to me is, as far as they having a human trafficking, sex trafficking sting in Ohio, damn near like a week after this happened, and this happens to end, this happens to eclipse kind of the verdict with George Floyd, kind of like it was synchronized. Now, I don't want to say that this situation may have happened before and they used this particular information to put it out there to eclipse what this situation is, because, like I said, we dealing with an opposition that sees us as cattle and move with emotions instead of facts. So we have to, before we pass judgment and say, well, she was wrong for the ninth and everything, put yourself in the predicament that, let's say, you basically allegedly gonna get, sex trafficking, and you gotta get in a van, and you might not see the a day again. What do you think you're gonna do? You're gonna be pushed to the limits where you're gonna be doing things that, for anybody that don't know, you may look crazy, right? And this is how they portray you. This is how the media plays these wicked tricks. This is how they make somebody as what is the youngsters in St. Louis they was kind of heavy, they got shot. They paint you like you was 365-pound muscle bound, and you could have just broke the officer's neck. And you know what I'm saying? It is not, like I said, I'm telling you, it is not the police department in a sense. It's more of the media giving you this narrative, like an example like Tupac. What Tupac had gone through, how he said he was crucified by the media. It's the same way that they'll give us something, and they just let our imaginations run with it, because there's a lot of us that are part of that system that use, let's say, will use YouTube to not give you the facts and give you a little sprinkle me of something good, but in reality they just taking you away from the right path that you're supposed to walk in. They don't want to solve certain cases. They talk like they do, but they don't want to solve, So be very, very aware of what's really going on. As far as we living in a time of sex trafficking, abduction, we living in a time where, what we see may not be what it is. We live in the time of the Matrix. Not everything you see, like I said, is a lady in the red dress effect. What you see is not really what it is. You see in a made up world that you have to have certain things in order to be successful. This is the Matrix that we're living in. And whenever we see a situation where this young lady lost her life and we just jump the gun and say, well, it's her fault, and not really look into that, well, she's from a foster care home. Certain percentage of numbers of kids that the research foster care homes usually end up sex trafficking. Was this young lady fighting off sex traffickers? That is the question. And it's funny though, because a week before that they had a sex trafficking sting in Ohio, one of the biggest in history. Follow me here. There's more to the story. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give too much, because I just want to give you enough to understand. Don't be rushed to judgment and think that whatever you see, that's what it is, because it comes from a production. And if it comes from a production, it comes from somebody who's directing it. And it's, you know what I'm saying? You follow me here. I don't want to, I got to go all the way to the, top of the food chain to let you know what it is. You know what I'm saying? So open your third eye. Understand what's going on. Understand that children right now, by the thousands, are missing across the United States every year. And a lot of that percentage come from group homes, foster homes, the same place this young lady came from. So don't rush to judgment and look at everything from a bird's eye view. Salute.